Hello, everyone. My name is Sarafi, and I'm happy to meet you all. Today, I am joined by not one, but two special guests because Chrome saw all the fun that Gold and I were having, and his PC was broken, so he could not join in, even though he really wanted to give his thoughts on day one. So he will have the opportunity to do that. But I am joined by both Chrome, the Gravekeeper Guru, and Goldmine, the Galaxy Eyes Guru. Chrome, thank you very much for coming up.
No, thank you for having me again. I'm so excited to talk about this.
I,
Finally.
I'm sure you are. And then Gold, I really appreciate you taking some more time to come and speak with me.
Oh, it's no problem. I really appreciate being on these podcasts.
I'm glad that you guys are enjoying them as much as I am. Now, before we talk about our main topic, we have a new character coming to Rush Duels tomorrow.
Oh,
Could I?
really? Wait, come on! I forgot.
It is.
Like I
It
knew.
is. It is tomorrow. I do not
What?
know what Konami is thinking.
What?
Like I knew it was coming soon, but tomorrow, bro.
Yes, yes. The event starts tomorrow. It's written in the client. Have you guys not been paying attention?
No.
This is why we have to talk about this. So so um
Okay.
so this is the first time I mean I've been playing this game for a long time. I've never heard of this. This is the first time we will have two character unlocks in the same month. That's not a world release. So Mimi has been is coming tomorrow, October 3rd, and then late October we are going to get Emma Bichot from Vrains.
This is so weird.
I know. I guess this is how they're making. They didn't think that they couldn't release two Rush Duel decks in a Rush Duel boxes in a row. So they decided to release a Speed Duel box, and they decided to go with Emma, which I mean, fair. Reigns has gotten basically nothing. Emma should have come like 3 months ago, but we'll ignore that. It's good that she's coming. That's fantastic. Altergeist players are talking about on Reddit, but that's not our concern. This is Fool's Rush In. This is not Fool's Speed In. So before we talk about the new cards, the new skills, and the implications for the meta, I want to talk about the voice acting. I am sure that neither of you have watched this video because Chrome is an art nerd, but he mostly pays attention to visuals, whereas I am much more concerned about audio. So have either of you watched this video yet?
No,
No,
I
not
have
yet.
not.
Okay. Uh, I want to talk about how hard the audio goes in this new world. So I'm gonna play this real quick and let's listen to it.
Deal? I'll break you before you break me. This draw is gonna be the bomb. Diane Keto the Boogie Master!
Okay, so
Oh
My
my god.
eyes are bleeding.
so I don't know about you guys. There's no comma anywhere in this title. But when I read this card's name, I am inclined to put a pause behind Keto. And she just belts it all out in 1 second. And it sounds great. I really like the voice acting for these characters.
I like the energy the actress is giving in this. I'm just more a little bit baffled, I guess. Because the line right before Diane Keto, she just voice cracks all over the place.
Right? It's kind of weird. But
She,
to be fair, um, the Destiny draw lines don't seem to see any use anyway. I don't even know why they're giving them to the um Sevens characters because I know why they were given to the other characters because that was in Tag Force where you actually had the ability to Destiny draw. But
Mhm.
even when you have like a draw sense skill, which would make the most sense to put that line in, they don't. So I don't know why they're even bothering still recording the Destiny draw lines. But regardless,
There was one point in time where they had a event where Destiny Draw was a skill for everybody to have. So that's why they're putting Destiny Draw as a skill just in case.
fair enough.
Yeah, I think we're gonna find in the voices and everything because I imagine as much as all of us had questions about Rush, I imagine the devs had all of their questions as well. So we're gonna see a lot of leftovers all around.
Hmm. The summoning chant here. I'll play this for you real quick, just so you can get the full. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard when the summoning chant's like the entire. It's entirely compartmentalized. when that's on the field and not part of that cut-in screen for us to hear it all together before they get released. But here you go. So this is what she says before she says Dion Kita.
This party is about to go crazy! From the driving disco comes the queen of the boogie beat. The party doesn't stop.
So from the driving disco comes the queen of the boogie beats, Dion Kita, the boogie master. So yeah, that's very similar to her lines in the Dawn of the Battle Royale game, except she sounds a lot calmer there. And it's the same thing with Gavin. Gavin, and I noted this in my previous video with Gold. Gavin has some really powerful lines when he's summoning Yami Ruler as well. So the characters, the voice actors for the English are so sharp and aggressive, and there's not a whole lot of hesitation in what they're saying, which is a big departure from the Switch game where it seemed a lot more laid back.
To be fair, I will give it before that was before the the Disney XD dub. So like they kind of really weren't expecting it to take off like it did.
Mhm.
So they didn't have to put so much energy into it like they did now, like they do now.
The Disney XD dub was fantastic, and I encourage anyone who wants to watch Sevens in English to watch it on Disney XD and give them all their money, and don't pirate this because it's like the first good Yu-Gi-Oh dub we've gotten in ages.
Yeah, it's amazing. And even I got a little detail there. You know how Mimi's English name is Mimi and Mimi
Yes.
instead of Mimi Asashi? Someone pointed out to me that Mimi Asashi is a pun in Japanese because Asashi is like a short version of what girls used to say back in the day, like in the 80s, as a
Ah.
cute way of introducing themselves. So the pun is that in Japanese, it sounds like she's saying, "My name is Mimi."
Ah. Okay. That's
That's
funny.
why her last name in English is I'm Mimi.
That's funny. Um. Uh. But so okay, that's the character's sprite. That's the character's voice. Let's talk about her cards.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already got the confirmed drops. The ultra rare is going to be Seahorse Carrier, and the super rare is going to be Seahorse Server. So it's not one. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. So Seahorse Carrier, level 3, light aqua monster, 700 attack, 0 defense. During the turn you normal summon this card, add one light attribute aqua type normal monster from your graveyard to your hand. So basically you get to grab a Bubble Era card from your graveyard, add it back to your hand. During the turn you summon Seahorse Carrier. This makes the card not as good to draw on the first turn, but it's a great recovery card. This is basically just Karibot.
No, this is actually really. I can see a lot of plays with this, depending on also the skills and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, definitely. I definitely see her being a really good character in this meta.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to see. Diane Keto herself is a fairly decent card. I'm running it at 1 in my climb deck, but it's not as good as a lot of the other cards. So we'll have to see like what sort of support Mimi gets, because if it's just Diane Keto spam, I don't know how good that's going to be.
Yeah, the benefit of Dian Keto is that it has 2500 and it can recover 1000 life points, which in this meta is actually really valuable because we have so little life points as this. My main concern is
Yes.
like, do we have enough normal light aqua monsters?
We'll get there. All right. The super rare is Seahorse Server. DLM. DLM is not going to load, apparently. There it goes. Level 2, Light Aqua. 500 attack. If you have a face-up Light Attribute Aqua type normal monster on your field, once per turn, you gain 500 life points.
Okay, that's good.
Yep. This card is also important because it is level 2, and the reason why that is valuable is because the skill that we've already seen leaked for Mimi cares about having monsters on your field whose levels equal 10. So, Seahorse Server being level 2, I think along with Bubbly Elf, I believe, is level 2. Those two cards are the cards that you can combine with Dion Keto herself to meet the requirements for the skill. So this will be played at 3. Okay. Then we have these other cards. We know that Harpy Lady is going to be added to the ranked tickets, I think. Or no.
Mhm.
Harpy Lady is a reward for the tag duel tournament. So
Okay, that's nice.
Harpy Lady is going to be an SR. Since you guys apparently aren't paying attention to your inbox, the ultra rare for the tag duel event that's coming up this month is Caius the Mega Monarch.
Oh,
Okay, no, shut up. Wait.
Yeah, we get 3 copies of Caius the Mega Monarch for free, with all the Monarch support that just came out.
oh shoot.
So monarchs are about to pop off. Go. Okay.
Yeah, because the selection box, I don't know if you saw, had escalation in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting. They're splitting the rewards. We get an ultra rare speed card and a super rare rush card. So no one's going to be happy. But to be fair, they're both really good. I mean, Harpy Lady is a very, very powerful card in rush duels, and Caius the Mega Monarch is like a meta card. That's like the best ultra rare we've ever gotten for free, besides Kite Drake.
I mean, everyone's gonna be unhappy except monarch players. Monarch players are gonna be eating good.
All right. Okay, so let's go over to these cards. I assume these cards are going to be level up rewards, except for Grace Princess. Oh, Grace Princess is Aqua. Why is Grace Princess Aqua? Okay. Well, I guess that she's a reward too. This card is like a random card from the Rush Duel game. I don't think Mimi ever played this card. I don't know why it's an Aqua monster. All right. So, Party. This card is hilarious. If you've never seen the anime. Party is change all attack position Aqua type monsters on your field to face up defense position and gain life points equal to the number of monsters changed to defense position by this effect times 400. So if you have 3 light Aqua monsters on the field in attack position, you play Party, and you gain 1200 life points and they all go to defense.
You can just turn them back to attack if you want.
Yes, then you can just turn them back to attack and then play another Party, and just gain 2400 or whatever. Mimi's deck is all about gaining life points with no way to use them. It's not really a benefit to her to gain life points, but that's kind of what Dion Kito, the Cure Master, does. So, because her deck is all about reprinting Dion Kito, all of her cards gain life points for no reason. So, this card is one of those. Is this worth an ultra rare slot? Maybe 1200 life points is a lot of life points, but I don't know that switching all of your monsters to defense mode is worth that. It's a good card to play on turn 1, but other than that, I don't think it's very good. You could always tribute the monsters that you switch, but
I can see some kind of meme deck using this to like gain a lot of life points and try to outsurvive your opponent's patience.
Then we have the actual good ultra rare, Triple Threat Thunder, which is not a bubble era card. It is, I guess, the boy bands that they would have been listening to during the bubble era. If you have 3 face-up Aqua-type monsters on your field, change the original attack of one face-up level 8 or lower monster on your opponent's field to 0 until the end of this turn.
Ouch! That hurts my life point.
It does hurt your life points. This is the answer that Diane Kito has to Dragius, to Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer, to Seven's Robe Magician. Like, I don't care. You're a big, scary monster. It has 0 attack points. Thank you for playing in attack position. Die now.
Okay, I found out the reference for this card. It's based on the Japanese name for it is Free K Bolt, which is based on men starting with the letter K, which is Konshinko. Like here, let me send you the trivia page. Let me see the trivia page.
Okay. All right, let's see. Thank you. The card's Japanese name, 3K Bolt, references the 3 characteristics in men starting with the letter K that during the bubble era were popularly believed to be what women look for in a man. Koshincho, which is tall, Koga Kureki, which is well educated, and Koshunyu, high income. I mean, that's every woman, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
so that makes sense though.
Sure, whatever. 3 handsome men who are apparently reducing a monster's attack points to 0 for no reason. Works well. This card will see a ton of play. Run 3 of this. And if
I
we
like
get,
to imagine.
go ahead.
Sorry, I like to imagine that they're so handsome that your opponent's monsters is being seduced
Mhm.
and he's weak.
All right. You asked about if we were going to have enough Aqua monsters. We have Kanan the Sword Diva. Fun fact: this card's Japanese name is Kanan the Gongoro Swords Mistress,
Oh, that's fantastic.
for those of you who do not know Japanese and who do not know Japanese culture, you might notice that Kanan has dark skin when she does not have dark skin in her original card art. So a Gongoro is uh, a woman who tans herself and dyes her hair blonde, which of course Japanese women are not naturally blonde, in order to get male attention. Um, anyway, light Aqua Monster with 1400 attack points, just like the original Kanan. And for some reason, they reduced the defense points of all of the cards to 0. So Bubbly Elf would actually kind of be good if it had 2000 defense points, but because it's 800 0, it's really bad. 1400 0 is a little bit better, but it makes Party 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 really bad because you're forcing all these monsters to have 0 defense points into defense position just to gain some life points. Then we have.
I can,
Go ahead.
I can see the now the normal monsters being used. I do see that there are like other normal summons are like capped at 14, which is not precisely good, but it's not bad either.
Yep. Then we have Grace Princess Kana, which is a level 2 light aqua monster with 200 attack and 1400 defense. This is not a bubble era card. This is not a reference to any old. Oh, I guess we should tell. Mimi's cards, because she's from old time Japan. She's from the 80s.
Yes,
All
the 80s.
all of her cards are references to old DM cards. So she has Bubbly Elf, which is Mystical Elf. She has Kanan the Gongoro Swords Mistress, which is Kanan the Swords Mistress. She has Diankito the Boogie Master, which is Diankito the Cure Master. This card is not any of those, so I don't know why she's getting it other than the fact that it is an Aqua Monster, which is light for no reason.
It's an aqua monster. It's Japanese and it's a cute girl. Maybe
I don't know.
The
I do not know why they decided to make all these Aqua Monsters light. I do not know why they decided that she needed to have light. I guess it's because of Shining City, which Shining City makes sense, but why are they Aqua types?
I cannot. I think someone at Konami said the aqua type is underrepresented in general. We should make them more. Oh, maybe it's because the bubble era.
Yeah,
Oh, that's. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah, of course, Bubble era. So the bubbles, they're all Aqua monsters. Okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, let's talk about her skills. So obviously, her level 1 skill is Rush On Diankito, which is at the beginning of the duel. If you have no level 6 or higher effect monsters in your deck, add 1 Diankito the Boogie Master to your deck. This is an unreasonable restriction, by the way. I hate these restrictions.
Yeah,
Um,
all of the rush on skills are garbage because of it.
yeah, I cannot believe you could play. They buffed Mark of the Dragon head to where it not only added Junk Synchron and Stardust Dragon. I think it even adds something else, doesn't it? I think it adds Junk Warrior now.
I'm pretty sure it has Excel Synchron.
Yeah, so they added a bunch of they buffed these other skills that are hey, you can play this, you're the boss monster without putting it in your deck. And then for these it's just no. This is only if you're poor. You can't do anything else with it.
Formula Synchron.
It adds Formula Synchron? That's funny. Okay.
I think they did it like this because of one card specifically.
Yeah, they did it because of Dragius. I get that, but still, it's unreasonable. Yes, it would be broken to have 4 copies of, but you could just do what they did with the main event for Gookies. At the beginning of the duel, if you have add a copy of Dragius to your deck, unless you have 3 copies already.
Or unless if you have no Dragiuses in your deck, for example, and all your other cards are dragons, then you can add a copy of Dragius.
That's too restrictive though. The skill, these skills are supposed to be played with regardless of the deck, which is why I'm mad because it's not regardless of the deck. It's got this restriction of no high effect monsters. All right, whatever. Boogie Master draw. If you have at least 10 light attribute aqua type monsters in your deck, can be activated before your normal draw on turn 4 and onward. If your opponent has a level 7 or higher monster, even no monsters on the field, 2 of the cards from your normal draw will be Dion Kita the Boogie Master and Seahorse Carrier. Okay, that is a huge buff from what was leaked. So originally, I thought this skill was going to be bad because originally when this skill was leaked before Rush came out, it said your normal draw will be replaced by Dion Kito and Seahorse Carrier, which that was just going to let you summon Dion Kito, and that was okay. But now that you get to draw these 2 cards plus 3 others. Whoa, that's crazy. That's like, okay, you're drawing 6 cards because Seahorse Carrier will refill your hand 1 extra card.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those cards is your boss monster. That's a really good skill. That it might see play, actually.
Basically, you're making sure, because it's turn 4 onwards, you're guaranteed to have a light aqua monster in your graveyard if you build your deck right. It's basically guaranteeing that you have a way of summoning your boss monsters immediately, and you have 3 extra cards, like you said. It's really good.
Yep,
Holy shit.
that's crazy good. All right, then we have Disco Fever. This is probably the skill that you're going to play. This is I imagine this is her level 18 skill. This skill can be used if you have at least 15 light attribute aqua type monsters, and the only level 7 or higher effect monsters in your deck are aqua type. So no Seven's Road, no the Yami Ruler, no Dragius.
Do we have any other level 7 or higher light aqua types, or just Boogie Master?
So it doesn't say light. It says only. It just says aqua.
Aqua, sorry.
So I don't. I think the other level 7 water we have is a fish. So not
Okay,
currently.
You can keep reading. I'm gonna open Duel Links and check.
Sure.
The card available.
The requirement can be activated during the turn you have summoned a light attribute aqua type normal monster. Any number of light attribute aqua type monsters on your field whose total levels equal 10 gain 700 attack until the end of the turn. So if you have Seahorse Server is level 2, then Dion Kito is level 8. So both of them gain 700 attack points. Seahorse Server has 1200, and Dion Kito has 3200 attack points. This is a fantastic skill. We have Seahorse Server, we have Grace Princess Kana, both of those are level 2, and then I'm pretty sure Bubbly Elf is level 2. Let me pull that up. Bubbly Elf is in the box already, by the way. Bubbly Elf is also level 2, yes. So this is fantastic. Like, you just get to summon Dion Kito, you'll summon one of your level 2s, you give them both 700 attack points, and you beat people to death. A great skill. Absolutely play this skill. It's going to be probably her best skill, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then you play triple Threat Thunders and deal 3,200 damage in a single attack while killing their boss monster. Insane. Gold, your thoughts?
What was the skill again?
Are you looking at my screen?
Yeah, I'm looking at the stream.
This one.
The Disco Fever, the leftmost one.
Up
left.
This is actually going to be very, very good. And this also works with like Rice Terran Security.
It does work with Rice Terran.
And I also want to answer your question before. Dion Kito is the only high level aqua monster we have right now.
Oh, actually,
yes, we have no.
I do apologize. It does not work with Rice. Rice is water.
Oh.
Yeah, Dion Kito for now is the only.
No, Rice is aqua. Rice is aqua.
Yes, but it says any number of light attribute aqua monsters.
No, I'm just saying, like, for the other restriction, the only level 7 or higher effect monsters in your deck are aqua type. The only level 7 or higher aqua monster in the game right now is Dion Kito.
Yes, but this does mean that we can use the other versions of Dion Kito, which are not waters. Or sorry, which are not light. There's a Dion Kito for every attribute. And I believe they're all level 8. Yeah, I know, it's weird. They've only printed 4 of them, and Mimi has a line for all 4 of the ones they've printed. So, or no, she doesn't. She doesn't have a line for Dion Kito the Cure Maiden. But the other 2. So, Dion Kito the Security Master, which is the one that I'm sure you've seen Iggly spamming in the
Dark,
Discord.
Yeah.
And then there is also Dion Kito the Cooking Master, which is the fire one. And then Dion Kito the Cure Maiden is water. And there is a Wind and an Earth one, which were never printed. But of course, I mean, they just gave us Psyche the Child of Wind. So those two cards get printed anytime. Anyway, other skills for her: Cure Master Dion Kito. If your life points are lower than your opponent's once per duel, you can shuffle 2 Aqua monsters with different names from your graveyard into your deck to set 1 Dion Kito the Cure Master from outside your deck in your spell and trap zone. Currently, Dion Kito the Cure Master is not in the game. So this is, I believe, one of the few times that we've seen like a card that's outside the game be added. Obviously, they did that with number 90 Photon Lord, but
Yeah.
other than that, like, I'm having a hard time thinking. Well, there's the Gandora skill that lets you send a Gandora to the graveyard. That doesn't exist, but they're pretty. They don't spend a whole lot of time giving us cards that we don't have. So this is interesting skill. I think it's worse than the. No, I don't think. I know this is worse than the life point gain generic skill.
Yes.
So this skill will probably not see any play unless you really want to recycle your Aqua monsters for some reason. But because it says 2 Aqua monsters with different names, you can't even get 2 copies of Dion Kito back in your deck. It has to be Dion Kito and something else. So seems pretty bad. I don't think this skill will see play. All right. Set party. Once per duel, set party from your deck or graveyard in your spell and trap zone. That's hilarious. I wish it was Triple Threat Thunder, but that would be broken. but why can't she have a broken skill? That would be so good. All right, but yes. So set party. It will be time to party. Obviously, she's going to have like a line that pops up when she activates that skill. So literally, she's going to have some sort of skill about, or like some sort of line about how it's time to dance. And then she sets party from her deck or graveyard, activates it, and immediately gains a bunch of life points.
Yeah, I can see this as a okay. I'm in a bad position. I need to recover a lot of life points right now. But other than that, it's just like it doesn't do much.
It does not. This is not a skill that you will see people use. But
No.
it does have no restrictions. I mean, well, it has no restrictions, but it only works on Aqua type monsters. Okay, never mind. This isn't like Hammer Crush Steel. This is not going to see any play.
And it's only once per duel, sadly. So no spamming this.
I know, right? It would be hilarious if it wasn't once per duel. I would definitely do this. Just get up to 20,000 life points. All right. Light Rays Draw can be activated before your normal draw on turn 4 and onward. If your opponent has a face-up level 7 or higher monsters, you have no monsters. One of the cards from your normal draw will be a random level 5 or 6 non-attribute, level 5 or 6 light attribute non-legend monster in your deck. And I believe the only card that fits this requirement right now is Lamoon. Do we have any other light level 5 or 6 light attribute monsters in the deck in the game?
Let me check.
I'll go check too.
Light level 5 and 6 filter. Actually, there are no level 5 and 6 light monsters apparently. Let me check something real quick.
Yeah. Only Lamoon.
Lamoon is in there.
Only Lamoon.
Okay, yeah. This is terrible. I mean, eventually we're going to get the Monarchs, and then this skill will be amazing. But until we get the Monarchs, this skill is terrible. All right. Now, Dragonic Earthquake. Apparently, I have no idea. Apparently, they decided Dragonic Resonance was not good enough. I don't know why. They decided to rework Dragonic. This is literally just Dragonic Resonance, but better.
Okay, first off,
Brave, leave me alone. Okay. Once per turn, if you control a level 5 or higher Earth-type dragon monster, choose 2 dragons, up to 2 dragons. With 2300 or less attack on the field, the selected monsters become level 7 and gain 500 attack until the end of the turn. Go ahead.
It has less restrictions overall.
It has less restrictions. It can be used anytime you control a level 5 or higher Earth Dragon monster, regardless of its attribute. You can run any cards in the same deck. And, yeah, it just lets you buff any dragons with 2300 or less attack.
This is just a buff to dragon casters.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's gonna make Dragonic Slayer a better card. I don't think Dragonic Slayer needs to be a better card. This skill is already good. I've already lost to the skill plenty, so I don't know what they're doing.
And not only that, Dragonic Slayer is one of those cards that is not really is good right now. It's gonna be better once back row becomes a thing.
Oh, definitely.
I wonder if they're actually going to replace Dragonic Resonance with this, because the skills are way too similar. I'm wondering if they reworked it specifically because it takes your monster above level 11. Like, because if you use it on Dragonic Slayer, for example, it becomes level 11. And they thought, oh, this actually has some, like, weird implications. So they decided to
Yeah.
change it so that they became exactly level 7. Um,
Also, becoming exact level 7 makes a little bit more sense because it doesn't give, for example, it doesn't give the protection from the triple K skill.
exactly, yeah. Like, it's, like, the increasing the level by 4 was weird. So maybe they just decided that that was too weird, and maybe this is just gonna literally, like, they're just gonna take the other skill out of the game, because I can't imagine them adding this skill when we already have resonance.
Like you said, this is resonance with less. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have the two at the same time because if you say like resonance now would be reworked to work on more than just dragons, for example, and then you had to pick, do you want the flexibility of resonance but restriction on deck building,
Mm-hmm.
or this? I don't know.
Yeah. All right,
I think
now
we're
we
getting
have
weird.
Legend Experience Dark Magician. Can be used turn 2 and onward by discarding one card from your hand only once per turn. Reveal 1,000 knives from your hand and set it to your field. Then add one Dark Magician to your hand from your deck or graveyard.
Stop trying to make dark magician a thing. It's not gonna be a thing.
I don't think 1,000 knives is in the game yet.
It's
I think
not.
it is.
Is it? Because
No, it
I
wasn't.
know we have Dark Magic Attack, but I don't think we have 1,000 knives yet.
Oh, 1 second. Uh,
Yeah, we don't got Thousand Knives yet.
we don't. I thought we did. No, we don't. Oh,
So this is interesting. This is revealing that we're about to get 1,000 knives, I guess. So when we get 1,000 knives, drawing Dark Magician from your deck is pretty good because you have
I think
1,000
it's good.
knives.
I think it's good. But I don't think it's good enough to justify playing this over all the other spellcaster skills.
You don't think being able to destroy a monster is worth it? This is like the best removal we have right now.
It is good, but it's not. How do I say it? This will only be able to be used once because you summon your dark magician, it gets destroyed next turn.
Yeah, but you can use the skill to bring it back from the graveyard.
Oh, the graveyard. Okay, I misread the graveyard. I just went deck. Okay, that's a
Not
little
one
bit
per duel. It's not.
better.
Oh, it is once per duel. Oh, it's once per turn. It's not once per duel.
Yeah,
Once per
yeah.
turn.
That's what I said. It's not once per duel. It's only once per turn.
Yeah, so just
Okay, okay, okay.
discard a card, you get Dark Magician. As long as you have to have 1,000 knives. But why wouldn't you run 3 copies of 1,000 knives if you could draw a Dark Magician?
Okay, this makes it a little bit better because it makes the overall dump everything into the graveyard and draw a bunch of cards of spellcasters focused on let's dump Dark Magician as soon as possible, try to draw 1,000 knives, and then just keep bringing Dark Magician over and over.
Yep. And I mean,
Okay.
this works well with Mystic Dealer. It works well with Recovery Force. I know that's what you just said, but I'm clarifying what you're meaning. Um,
I think the only weakness I can see in this deck is it is once per turn. At most, you will only be able to use it thrice per duel, because that's how many copies of 1,000 knives you're gonna have.
yeah, but you have Dark Magician Girl. Dark
No, I know, I
Magician
know,
being in your graveyard is not a problem. It's the solution.
no, I know, I know. I'm just saying like that is the weakness I can see in it. If the duel goes longer, it might hurt you. And also the mirror match of this is going to be fucking hilarious.
The mirror match is going to be insane. All right. Okay. That is enough of this nonsense. Let's get to the meta. Okay. All right. So we have a lot of decks that have hit the game, and they are all pretty annoying. So let's talk about it. Right now, the um, DLM recognizes 10 decks, which is surprising. Um, so we have Dragon Casters, we have Spellcasters, we have Dragons, Aggro, Psychic, Yami Ruler, Beat Down, which we will talk about, Rush Raptors, Road Magic Explosion, which based, by the way, based, and
Based.
then Noodle Ninja, which is also
Also,
extremely based. Um, okay, so uh, going around the table, we will start with Gold, then Chrome, then myself. What deck do you think is the strongest in the meta right now? Gold?
I feel like Dragon Casters is the strongest right now because it has both the benefits of Dragus plus the draw power of spellcasters.
I will also add that both Chrome and myself have hit King games already. I forgot to mention that at the start of this stream. Okay.
Oh,
No. I was telling our audience. Okay. All right. Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off, Gold. All right. So Dragon Casters. So the Dragon Caster deck focuses around summoning Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius, Seven's Robe Magician, and trying to overwhelm your opponent with a combination of value from Mystic Dealer and Recovery Force. Uh, and the real star of this deck, I am going to say it, and I'm going to be correct, even though no one that was watching will agree with me. The star of this deck, and the only reason this deck works at all, is Karibot. Karibot is such a good card. It is very underrated. Um, the ability to simply draw 6 cards instead of drawing 5 cards is very valuable, especially in a deck that loves to discard. If you don't use this card as tribute material, you can still discard it with Seven's Rogue Witch. If you don't use this card as discard material, it gives you an extra card so you can discard something else with Mystic Dealer. So you summon Kribot, get a Kribot back, then you have an extra body in your hand so you can use your Mystic Dealer, discard a card like Fire Golem to draw another card, and still have enough bodies to make plays. Karibot is extremely good. It is very unfortunate that it's an ultra rare in a box. So a lot of people do not have 3 copies of this card yet. This is one of the reasons, along with Dragus, which is I would highly encourage anyone who's interested in bite the bullet and get 3 full runs of this box, because Karibot is a card that you will never regret having 3 of moving forward. Okay.
I do agree.
Yeah, all right. So Gold, this is the deck that you think is the strongest. So go ahead and let me know what your thoughts are besides what I just said.
I definitely do agree that Kariba is the strongest of the deck. But we also cannot deny how much draw power it has. On top of that, especially with Mr. Dealer filling up the graveyard to help set up 7 Throne Magician. And then on top of that, it has the ability to put in multi-strike Dragius to give it more beatdown potential.
I don't know that I agree with calling it Dragon Casters though. There's only one dragon in here. It is spellcasters that can summon Dragius also, for right now at least. But yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. Okay, and then the skill is of course Legend Draw, which is um, before your normal draw on turn 4 and onward, if your opponent has a face-up level 7 or higher monster and you have no monsters on your field, only once per duel, one of the cards from your normal draw will be a legend monster. Obviously, the once per duel restriction doesn't matter because you can only run 1 legend monster, and we draw Summon Skull. And the reason we draw Summon Skull is so that we can use 2 cards from our hand to get rid of whatever their crap is. And this is guaranteed removal, basically. It allows you to know that you can safely remove Dragius or Seven's Robe Magician or Yami Ruler in attack position. Um, this skill is very good, especially because it has no restrictions. That's the only reason the skill gets run in these decks, is because you could play it alongside whatever you want, and what you want is spellcasters with Dragius. Okay, so that is the Dragon Caster list. It is doing very well. It has topped multiple times. Okay. Chrome, what do you think is the best deck of the format?
Okay, so I do have to address there's a little bit of a difference in experience uh, between what we see on ladder and what we see from tournament results.
I am sure that no one who watches this video will care about tournaments.
No, I know. I just want to mention that because on ladder, I think there's a reason Dragon Casters is so represented. That's because not only is it effective is also very easy to play.
That's
Like
fair.
Dragiath is a very intuitive monster to use, as well as all the engine is very easy to understand. Especially like the list you just showed, avoid some cards that use can lead to some misplays, specifically Torna can lead to some misplays on like the lower skill level.
Mhm.
Uh, but that said, when we see tournament results, we see a little bit of more of a very healthy meta. But if we're talking about ladder right now, climbing and stuff that is going to be annoying and what you have to build to defeat, I will agree that Dragon Casters is the most dominant deck.
Okay, so you also think that the Legend Draw deck that combines Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius and Seven's Road Magician is the best deck.
Yeah, I don't know if it's specifically the Legend Draw. I don't. Not because I don't think that one's the strongest. I think that there's also value in other different builds of the deck. For example, there is a Dragoncaster build that is geared more towards the Hammer Crush to play 21-9 cards in your deck,
Mm-hmm.
or 28. Uh, Basically, the Hammer Crush deal allows you to, when you draw Hammer Crush, you set it and you draw another card. So if the Hammer Crush comes into play, it's good. If it doesn't come into play, it basically turns your deck into a 28 card deck.
And the consistency of that is pretty valuable, especially since you are running Recovery Force, so it's not like you're going to run out of resources like other decks might.
Exactly. So like the both variants have their own value. I do not know which one is the strongest right now, but I do think that Dragon Casters is the strongest, most reliable, and easier to play deck that you're gonna see all over the place. So you should build around this deck.
All right. Gold, do you have anything to add to what Khrome just said? I know that he was talking about the same deck that you were, so if you don't, that's normal.
I I don't think I have any more to add. I think he also expresses the points I want to express, so I think I'm good on my points.
All right. I will disagree with both of you. So you are correct that Dragon Casters is a very dominant, very powerful deck on the ladder. I actually think that the best deck on the ladder at the moment is the Curse of the Dark deck. And the reason why I think Curse of the Dark is such a dominant skill and such a dominant powerhouse is because it is so incredibly easy to get 2,800 attack points. I am surprised that Khrome did not mention the Seven's Road Excel skill. Seven's Road Excel is probably the most the skill that's the easiest to spam because it has 3 targets. It has Torn of the Windweaver, Seven's Road Witch, and Excel Wonder Splat. And that skill allows you to very easily beat over both Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius and Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer, which is the primary reason that so many Seven's Road Excel decks are seeing play right now. But despite that, the Curse of the Dark deck is just insane. Um, so what Curse of the Dark does is it allows you to select one face-up Dark attribute normal monster on your field that was summoned this turn, and it gains 500 attack until the end of the turn. Then if you chose Dragon Knight of Darkness, you can return one card from your hand to your deck, and if you do, Dragon Knight of Darkness gains an additional 700 attack points as long as it's face-up on the field. So it it's this turn has 2,800 attack points, and then every turn after that has 2,300 attack points. That's really good, obviously, but the main benefit of this is that because Curse of Dragon came out, you are now able to run 3 copies of Summon Skull.
Shoot, that is
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I think you did it. You wouldn't see this build if you see the recent tournament results. Curse of the Dragon was not a factor in that tournament. I think it would have changed some results.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
So no one was expecting Curse of Dragon to come out. That was a big surprise. But thank you, Konami, for putting cards into the card trader so quickly. We need more than 2. but thank you. Um, Curse of Dragon fits the skill very perfectly. It is significantly better than Dragon Knight of Darkness. Dragon Knight of Darkness does allow you to beat over the biggest problem monsters and keep a card on the field that has relatively good attack points for very little investment. That's fantastic. I'm not saying Dragon Knight of Darkness is not a good part of this deck, but the reason why this skill is so good is because Curse of Dragon, for just activating the skill, hits 2,500. That will destroy anything you need it to destroy except exactly Yami Ruler in defense position. And guess what? Dragon Eye of Darkness destroys Yami Ruler in defense position. So really, really good for both of these. And Phoenix Dragon allows you to get both of them back. And then you can play them again and get the skill again. So this is an extremely good deck. Now, it's an argument about whether the Dragonic Resonance deck or the Curse of Dark deck skill is better. But I really think that it is the Curse of the Dark skill, just because this deck can very easily focus on raw numbers. And like Chrome was saying, it's idiot proof. All of these monsters are normal monsters. The skill makes you play normal monsters. But the normal monsters will win the fights. They'll win them. And the other thing is you can play Dragonic Pressure in this deck. And if you play Dragonic Pressure in this deck, you have a Dark Hole. Is a Dark Hole good? Yes, Dark Hole is very good.
Also, you have a Dark Hole in a deck where you can leave your the card in your hand to be Phoenix Dragon, so you can recover something from the graveyard later. So, yeah,
Well, you can revive Phoenix Dragon because Dragonic Pressure lets you revive a monster after you play it.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's right.
And by the
Not
way,
only
that monster can be Sports Dragon Pitcher or Sports Dragon Slugger, which can then
Yeah.
revive the other copy, and then you could just sacrifice them both to play the level 7 that you kept in your hand.
the only bad part about the pitcher combo is now your level 6 or lower monsters cannot attack that turn.
Yeah, but it's perfect for exactly the Dragonic Pressure turn because you
Yeah,
only had one card in your hand to begin with anyway.
exactly.
Yeah. So this is basically, I think that the Curse of the Dark deck is essentially the same thing as the Excel deck, except that the Excel deck really, really mills itself, and
Hmm.
they kind of they're they're over reliant, in my opinion, on Recovery Force. So Recovery Force is a good card. I'm not saying it's not, but Dragons, since they don't need to use Recovery Force, can play cards like Pierce and Darkness Approaches and Phantom Bind, which allow them to have very favorable matchups. And of course, Pierce is insane when you combine it with multi-strike Dragon Dragons. So, um, yeah. Uh, this is a King of Games list. I don't know if this is the best version of the deck. I'm going to be playtesting it myself today. Um, I do think that probably you want to add at least one copy of Dragonic Pressure to this list. I doubt that I'll keep it the same as it is right now. But
Hmm.
this is, I think, the best deck. It's also probably the funnest deck. Let's be honest. Does anyone really have fun playing this Monster Mash crap? No. So I'm excited to actually play like a dragon focused deck with a dragon focused character. Oh, by the way, because everyone was playing Monster Mash, everyone found out really early that Luke has a line and a cut-in animation with Seven's Row Magician.
Yep.
So that threw a lot of people off.
It's funny because Yuga doesn't have one for Dragias,
No, but I have to assume that Luke probably played the card in the anime at some point.
but
You can hear
I
me?
think Yuga played Dragias too because Seven's Gias is an anime card.
Yeah, but who played Seven Skias? Did Luke summon it, or did Yuga summon it?
That is a fair question. I always assume it was Yuga.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, Gold. We cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was about to say that Luke receives Seventh Row Magician from Yuga at near the end of the anime.
Mhm. Yep. All right. Okay. So we talked about the decks that we think are the best. Now let's go around reverse order this time. So Crumb first, and talk about the decks that we think are the worst.
Ah, man, this is gonna be hard to say, but I think it's a little bit of a tie.
let's exclude. We're gonna exclude Noodle Ninja and Explosion right now because Noodle Ninja is not meant to be a good deck. We didn't get any support
Okay.
for it. We didn't get any of the like Noodle art spells. Um, so this deck is still like it's coming. And then the Explosion deck, we should exclude because people don't haven't had enough time to really get all the extra cards they need for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect this deck will be a meta player, but it will be a meta player after people have farmed the hell out of Yuga to get 3 copies of all his drops. So just out of these 8 decks, which are seeing a lot of play, all of these decks have seen a ton of play, I will say. Which
Mm-hmm.
deck do you think is the worst, Chrome?
Okay, from this list, uh, it's a little bit hard, but I think I'll have to go with Beatdown,
Okay. So you think
which
that hold on, let's pull this up. I don't think that Gold actually knows what this deck does. Gold, have
I've
you go ahead?
I have not faced it yet, so I
Okay.
do not know what this deck
All right.
does.
So Chrome, if you'll allow me, I will quickly explain this deck.
go ahead.
All right, so Beatdown is very similar to the Monster Mash aggro deck that I played to King of Games, which focused. The difference between that deck and my deck is my deck used like 1500 attack monsters from every type, that except for Dragon and Spellcaster, so that I could get some pressure on the board, deal extra damage, have all these tribute fodders, and not trigger Phantom Mine. That was the goal of my version of the deck, which was really good 2 days ago. But the meta has really shifted since then. The beatdown version of the deck uses, instead of all the 1500 attack monsters, it uses all of the level 1 monsters that have 0 attack and 1400 defense for that attack mode skill. We got all these, and then we got Volcanic Rat as well. So it's using all these level 1 monsters as tribute fodder, and the reason for that is so that they can play Diabolic King Beetle, which is a level 6 dark insect monster with 1700 attack and 200 defense. And its effect reads: send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. One face up monster on your field gains attack equal to the number of level 1 monsters in your graveyard times 100 until the end of the turn. And the reason why this deck sees play is because it allows you to make Summon Skull and Dragius have over 2,500 attack points because you can target any monster, not just Beetle. And because you can,
Ah,
and that allows you to win trades that you otherwise would have, like every other deck, just trades. So this card is essentially like it's like Thunder the Thunder. It's like the Rice card. It allows you to win a battle with a monster that you otherwise would tie with. Um, but the difference primarily between this card and those other cards is it allows you to beat exactly Yami Ruler in defense position. So this card allows you to play, you summon it alongside Summon Skull, and then you can use its effect on Summon Skull, and Summon Skull will go above 2,500 to beat over Yami Ruler, and you haven't summoned a level 7 monster.
that does sound actually really good. Like,
This skill
but why
also,
you? Oh,
real
I'm
quick,
sorry.
real quick. This skill makes use of 2 other factors. First of all, it makes use of the fact that Kuribot is insane, because Kuribot is also a level 1 monster. Second of all, it uses the skill Tribute Boost, which is on turn 4 and onward, you can pay 1,000 life points and one face up level 5 or 6 monster on your field, gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. It can also be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a monster in attack position, but you cannot attack directly. So, what you do is you activate the effect, you use King Beetle's effect on something. So King Beetle leaves behind its buff, and then you can tribute King Beetle to just drop Dragius or Seven's Road Magician. And by the way, all of these level 1 monsters are different attributes. So we have Currybot as Dark, Strange Cat as Earth, Ancient Turtle Protector as Water, Drake of the Tiny as Wind, Howling Bird as Light, Volcanic Rat as Fire. So this is also just empowering Seven's Road Magician.
I see.
And here's my take on this deck. This deck shares a very similar problem with the other contenders for which I think are the worst decks, which is when this deck pops off, it is unstoppable because it can add a lot of attack if you look into what you have here. But The issue with this deck is it lacks the consistency tools that decks, for example, like dragons have, with the level 3 headed dragon there that allows you to draw a card. It lacks the spellcaster engine to keep drawing cards and dumping them into the graveyard. And looking at this list right here, it's playing 15 level 1 vanilla monsters. So I think that is the main issue with the deck right now. When it does pop off, that Dragias is the most terrifying Dragias you'll ever meet. And if you face Dragias in the game, you'll know he can be terrifying. Because it will not only get past your monsters into your life points, it is going to slap you out of the game within 1 or 2 turns. The problem is you have to draw Beetle, and you have no ways of getting it back either. So if you don't go for the kill immediately, you're dead. You're likely dead. So that is why I think this deck is. It's not that it's weak. Is that it is not consistent. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do consistently enough.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
All right, Gold. What do you think is the worst deck out of these 8?
I'm gonna have to disagree with Chrome here and say that while it is personally my favorite deck, I have to say Warrior slash Yami Ruler is the worst deck right now.
Okay,
You
so hold on. So the warrior deck focuses around the skill Dark Arts of Celerity, which can only be used if the monsters with 1400 or more attack in your deck are warrior types. And once per turn, if you have summoned a level 6 or higher Dark or Earth attribute warrior monster, you can change one attack position monster on your opponent's field to defense position. Please continue.
while you are correct that beatdown does not have the consistency like you said. I feel like while Warriors do get consistency, a bit more consistency options with bonded bowing, it does not have as much power compared to beatdown. Because even though we have Kime Ruler, I feel like that's not enough right now.
So, the Dark Arts of Clarity skill does allow you to attack directly if your opponent goes into a full defensive position. However, uh, most decks at this point will find it difficult to be pressured into a full defensive position without the presence of multi-strike Dragon Dragius. And that is probably the biggest weakness of the Dark Arts of Clarity deck, is that it is not allowed to run Dragius. And is it good enough to play Yami Ruler and Kime Ruler, sneak in 2,500 points of damage, win every battle on your turn because all your opponent's monsters got switched to defense position automatically, if you can't really close the game out? And I do think that the answer in that situation is no. Now, the presence of Curry bots as well as Sports Dragon Pitcher and Sports Dragon Slugger does give you a lot of options for summoning these high level monsters repeatedly. But uh, I do think that it's nice that we got Nandez the Fire Awakener and Bonded Bowing right away. So playing Yami Ruler does not feel bad, but this control deck does not have enough tools to win the game fast enough.
Yes, and that is my problem.
Mhm.
It does not have the options like the other deck because they can't run Dragon or like 7 road.
All right.
It can only use what it has, and I feel like that's not enough.
So let's real quick. I'm gonna.
Okay,
I should
can
have done
I
this.
add?
Hold on, hold on. I should have done
Okay,
this from the beginning, and I didn't think about it, but that's fine. We're learning on the fly here. So we are gonna make a tier list on the screen, which will help. Um,
while you're looking for resources, I'm just going to add one thing to this.
Go ahead.
Uh, while I agree with the sentiment, I do want to point out that in the recent tournament, this deck took second place above the Dragias, the Dragon Casters, and I love spellcaster builds. And I'm gonna
Uh,
quote Tomato Source. Something to keep in mind is when we're talking about specifically tournament results, not specifically talking about um, the latter, because Yemi Ruler and Kimi Ruler, alongside psychics and spellcasters, are some of the harder decks to play, and so it's not gonna see much representation on the ladder. But uh, Tomato Source made a point that we are kind of in a sort of triangle meta, where there's three main decks and they all counter each other. And Yemi Ruler specifically counters uh, dragons really well because they do not have an answer to a Yami Ruler.
hold on. I just I
Dragon.
just spent I just spent the entire time discussing how the Curse of Dark Dragon deck does have an answer to
No, I
Yami
know.
Ruler.
I'm talking specifically before Curse of Dragon. So
Well, yeah, but
before
that
that,
doesn't help. That doesn't help
when,
people. We're talking about
when you're
now.
saying, okay, sorry, when you're talking about Dragon Casters specifically,
Okay, Dragon
because
Caster specifically. All right, sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
'cause Dragon Casters they try not to run cards like Witch, for instance.
That is
They
correct.
rely on
Most Dragon Casters do not run Witch. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you. That's fine.
no, that's fine, that's fine. When you're talking about Dragon Casters, like the dragon monsters, before the the Curse of Dragon release, didn't have the tools to go over the Yami Ruler. So if you look at Dragon Casters, take any list. Okay, this one happens to run Witch, but it's not a common occurrence to see her. And even then, they don't have the tools to conciliatory bring her out. For example, this only runs one Witch,
Hmm.
so that's once you get to go over Yami
Here's one that
Ruler.
has no Witch.
That one runs no Witch. So warriors can be very hard to get over to some decks, and specifically the dragon casters aggro builds have a harder time against the Yami Ruler.
Hmm.
So that's why I don't think it's a worst deck, but it is the deck with the least attack power. So I do agree that it's not at the top.
Okay. All right. It's my turn, and it's a toss up for me. Between two decks that I sadly thought were going to be really good. Um, before I actually played the game, and if I have to pick between the one that's worse, I would say it is Psychic, although very barely. Let's see.
Yeah, that was my second pick.
So yeah, we have a Psychic player that got second place, but you can see there's like no top eights, top fours. The other person got like top 16. So like Psychics have not been doing well, and one of the primary reasons why Psychics are not doing well is because their skill, like you could see, like their skill, like top 16 climax beat, and then like the other person was doing life point gain. The skill is much more restrictive than the other ones. It requires you to only play psychic monsters with 2,400 or less attack points. So we just don't have enough of them. There's just not enough psychic monsters, and we can't play Kuribot, which is a huge drawback. Um, and then the other problem is like as good as Severing Psychic Wall is, and I was surprised. I thought Severing Psychic Wall was going to be like carrying this meta. But the problem is like even with the extra 500 attack points, Prima Katarna is pretty frail, which is sad. I was hoping that this deck would be more consistent. The problem with this deck, because it can only run psychic monsters, is that they run out of boss monsters before everyone else does. Because dragon casters, spellcasters, dragons, they have, you know, um, 8 to 10 boss monsters, and psychics do have 8 if you run 3 copies of Prima Guitarra, 3 copies of Psy Sage Bouncer, and 2 copies of Folder Blitz the Infinite Dream. That is 8 boss monsters, but you have to dig pretty deep through your deck to get all of them, as opposed to running Mystic Dealer or, um, Dragius pulls double the duty, so it's like two boss monsters at one time. You can't play Summon Skull, which is a huge drawback. Wow, not being able to play Summon Skull really sucks in this meta. And more importantly, um, unless you use Climax Finale, only Prima Gitarna can get over Yami Ruler of the Dark Delayer. Um, so even like it's not just that they have fewer boss monsters; those boss monsters are also weaker. You're not getting like yes, you could use Climax Finale to give your monsters a little bit of a boost, but it's not 800 attack points like Excel is. It's not 500 attack points like the dragon skills are. Like you will usually get between 300 and 400 attack points from using Climax Finale, and yes, it can go up to like 900 or 1000, or sorry, 900 or 1000. But that's very late in the game, and the truth is, you don't really survive that long most days. So the skill is very good. I am very surprised that the skill is not carrying the deck more than it should. It's just because we don't have good targets. I do think that this deck will become extremely good once we get exactly Esperade the Smashing Superstar. And I can understand why they decided to go with Folder Blitz as the other boss monster instead of Esperade, because Esperade's kind of insane, but really Psychic's needed at this point. If they're going to prevent them from playing Dragius, then we have to have Esperade so that we have an answer to Dragius. And that is not a very good answer either. Floating at 1,000 or less life points your entire duel is not a good plan, but it is the only plan that Psychics have. So, give me my Rock Idol waifu, please, Konami. Oh, you can't even play Esperade with the skill. What the heck? Esperade has 2,500 attack points? I thought she had 2,400.
Oh, shoot.
What the hell? Oh my god. You can't even play Esperade in the Climax Beat deck. That is bullshit.
Whoa.
And I also want to add something else to what you're saying.
Yep.
So the second card in this list is one of the best consistency cards of the deck. You can only get one of them.
Yes, but I completely agree with that. I hard agree that we should not get more than one Romantic. That card is
I know.
crazy in 30 card decks. And this is the problem. I told Gold this already. I was like, this card would definitely be a 3 of if we had 40 card decks, 40 to 60. Because they decided to do 30 to 40, you can't give us this card at 3. It's insane. But that's all the more reason why we shouldn't have 6,000 life points and 30 to 40 card decks. And really, this whole like aggro meta that where Dragius is more overrepresented than any of us expected, is just like a clue to Konami that they messed up. That this was a dumb idea, and really, we can all hope and pray and cope as hard as possible that Konami just comes out and says, "Our bad. 6,000 life points, 30 to 40 card decks, not smart. As soon as we give you guys another box, so you have more cards, we're moving it to 40 to 60 and 8,000. And if they do that, no joke, if they do that, the game will get fixed, like overnight. That extra 2,000 life points is literally all we need to deck these aggro decks out."
Yep, no, I agree with that. Like the reason Dragias specifically is so fucking powerful is because he only needs to tap you twice, and he can tap you twice really easily. That's just the whole point of the monster is to tap you twice.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
like
someone on Reddit pointed out that there are other. So the Strike Dragon archetype is like its own little archetype, and there are plenty of other There are plenty of other imaginations of Dragius, but all of the ones that came after Dragius specifically say that they can only attack other monsters. So like Illusion Strike.
yeah, all of the strike dragons. And they also saw someone mention like none of the strike dragons ever got into a ban list.
Yep.
The history of the game. So the archetype, the multi-strike, the strike archetype is not that strong. It's just Dragius is the problem child.
Yep. But yeah, no. So the other two cards that got printed, Illusion Strike Dragon Miragius and Steel Strike Dragon Metagius. First of all, they require you to discard a card from your hand instead of from the top of your deck, and secondly, they can only make a second attack on a monster, as opposed to like a second attack. So they can't attack directly. So
Hmm.
so when they tried to expand this deck, they were sure to take all the best parts of Dragius out, which is funny. Um, okay. All right. So let's make this tier list. So this is gonna have to be a consensus. Let's see. All right. So we will represent Dragon Casters. Dragon Casters is the first deck. We will represent Dragon Casters with um, Recovery Force, I think. Let's see. So all right, so vote time. We have to come to a consensus before we can put it anywhere. So S is obviously. Let's define the tiers. S is a deck that you expect to cog with very little effort, especially the current meta where we only have to climb uh, up to gold 5 and we can't drop. Um, S is like you play 4 hours in your game games. A,
Hmm.
you can win, but you're more frequently like trying to counter S decks than you're actually trying to win games, and so you're like playing an anti-meta like counter deck, and it works pretty well. B is like a deck that's kind of worse than A and S, but can still get some wins. C is averaged. D is bad. E is worse than bad, and F is the worst. And we should only have like a maximum of 2 decks in S and only 1 deck in F. All right. So with that in mind, where do you want me to put Dragon Caster's Chrome?
Okay, after that discussion, I know I started saying it's the best deck, but after that discussion, I think because I have someone else in mind for S. Actually, if you're thinking only about ladder, I will put this in S. Yeah.
All right. Gold, what do you think?
I definitely agree. Like, we're not gonna talk about tournaments because like that's different. You can lease side for that and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
ladder, yeah, I definitely agree. Dragon Casters is S.
Okay. We will put Dragon Casters in S. All right. Next up, we have the pure version of Spellcasters, which we will talk about because we have to talk about these decks before we actually rate them. Um,
Okay.
okay,
Can
so
you can I start?
go ahead.
Okay. So for reference, this is the deck that I caught with. I've been playing it exclusively since the game came out because I just like spellcasters in this game a lot. How they work. The deck is good. It is very very good. You'll see that it actually got a lot of top fours, a win in a tournament, and it is there is a small number of people saying it is the best deck competitively. That is if we're talking about tournaments. If we're talking about ladder, I think this deck is has a lot of possible traps.
Chrome,
Yeah,
I love you. Please tell people what the deck does before you start
yeah.
talking about it.
Okay, so what the deck does is we talked before about uh, the spellcaster engine. You have Recovery Force and you have Mystic Dealer, cards that you, for example, Mystic Dealer dump a spellcaster from hand to the graveyard to draw another card, and then Recovery Force shuffles 3 spellcasters from your graveyard back into the deck to draw a new card. So this is one of the few decks that has a draw engine, a dedicated draw engine. Mystic Dealer can dump a card you're not going to use in your hand. In this case, Doriado is a possibility. Fire Golem, Mystic Archer, Spell Archer, sorry. Those cards are not gonna be much use. You don't want them in the field. You dump them. Now you have a spellcaster in the graveyard, a type for sevens to get more power, and you get to draw a new card. And Recovery Force, I kept saying before, like for example for Beetle, once the beetles are in the graveyard, there's nothing you can do with them. Recovery Force does what it says in the tin. It recovers your resources. It shuffles back your Sevens Roads. It shuffles back your Witches, which combined with the skill specifically, uh, Sevens Axle Roll, what it does is when you normal summon a 1600 attack monster to your field, it can gain 800 attack until the end of the turn. And if you activate the skill turn for Onward, you have the option to shuffle a card from your hand back into the deck to bring a Sevens Road Magician to your hand. So the combo you want to do is you normal summon Sevens Road Witch. It gains 800 attack, so it's now 2400. Use Witch's effect, which is now 2800, and you have a Sevens Road Magician in the field with a graveyard full of monsters and different attributes if you did it right doing your combos. You also have Axel Splat, Axel Wonder Splat, sorry, which dumps more cards into your graveyard to raise attacks on the field. It is also 1600, so it can go up to 26, which goes over Yamuler. It goes over Dragius. And then lastly, you have Torna, which again by itself, it can turn a Dragius into defense to go over it. It has a lot of options, a lot of considerations to take into account. It can play Kuribot, so you have that going for you. Kuribot is an excellent discard fodder for all your discard cards, except for Mystic Dealer, because it has to discard a Spellcaster. The deck does a lot, but with doing a lot, it has a lot of options and a lot of opportunities to fuck it up. I cannot explain how many times I won against fellow 7 Axel players because they used Torna to turn a monster on my field to defense when they could have attacked for game. Like they refuse to use Torna offensively for some reason. And not only is it difficult to play, like Surfy mentioned before, it mills a lot. So there's a possibility that you're gonna end up milling your recovery force. You're gonna end up milling your own engine. So you have to be really careful, and you have to time your cards correctly. There's an order to play this deck. So yes, I agree the deck is exceptionally strong. It counters a lot of the decks that are on the meta right now, and it is going to take you to COG if you're patient to learn it. But because it needs the patience to learn, and because there's a lot of misplays so early in the game, I think the deck is A tier.
Okay.
I can definitely agree with that. It has a lot of options, but like you said, it's pretty high execution. So I feel like A tier is pretty fair.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to reiterate a few things that Khrome said. First of all, I will point out that he says that he likes playing spellcasters, and all the Grey Reaper monsters are spellcasters. Second of all,
Yes.
So a Sevens Excel Road, very similar to what I said about the Curse of the Dark skill. It gives you a very clear breakpoint of with Excel Winter Splat and Sevens Road, which if you can activate their effects exactly 2800 and 2600. And Excel Wonder Splat also can target any spellcaster, not just herself. So if you use Excel Wonder Splat on, for example, Torna the Windweaver, along with the skill, can go up to 2600 as well if you need to for whatever reason. So, yeah, if you summon Excel Wonder Splat, use the effect on her on this turn, and then like they pass to you, and then you can't use the skill on her anymore because she didn't get normal summon this turn. You can summon Torna and then use the skill and her again to beat over 2600 again. So, the meta right now is summon as many monsters as with 2500 attack as you can, pressure your opponent, get any trades you can on the field, then pass to them, and they do the same to you. And so the Sevens Excel Road deck sees a lot of success primarily because when they face down the opponent's attacking board, they will usually be able. They're usually able to overcome it with a minimum amount of resources. They will lose the next turn because their monsters do not have nearly as much attack as, for example, the player who passed to them did. But as long as they continue their stream of drawing level 6 monsters, they will continue to make favorable trades and eventually get into a position where their free 7's Robe Magicians overwhelm the opponent's life points. And primarily, the reason why this deck is so good is because since you have 7's Road Witch to beat over cards like Dragius, that gives you more opportunities, not necessarily every opportunity, but more opportunities for your 7's Road Magicians 3,300, 3,600 attack points to actually land directly into your opponent's life points. By shifting so much of the power away from Magician, Magician no longer has to carry the deck and can instead be its ace, as opposed to other decks that run 7's Road, where 7's Road is literally just a removal card. That is extremely interesting. The deck is very difficult to play, and I do not like Recovery Force. I disagree with Chrome entirely. Yes, Recovery Force can be used to allow you to shuffle cards like 7's Road Magician and 7's Road Witch back into your deck. But it is a conditional +0, and that is terrible. A conditional +0 is the worst type of draw. It Mystic Dealer is not a conditional +0, even though you discard a card to draw a card, because Mystic Dealer itself is a body on the board. This is a +1. Whereas with Recovery Force, you have to have 3 cards in your graveyard. Then you have to get rid of them, which weakens your 7's Robe Magician, in order to draw a card. This does prevent you from decking out, which is good. But if we had 40 cards, you wouldn't need to worry about decking out anyway. And you do have the option to run 40 cards. Everyone has the option to run 40 cards. So this card basically allows you to get away with running 30 cards with a deck that draws more aggressively than normal. And if you draw it on the first turn, it's a dead card. And I don't like that. The entire reason that I focused on a 30 monster deck list to COG is because I was getting screwed playing back row. So I agree this deck is probably A tier. It's a good deck. It just is not my style, and I have no interest in building this deck. I'm going to build the Explosion deck. It's going to be way better.
Yeah, I will just also say add one thing that I forgot to mention. When I said that the deck is difficult to play, a lot of things that people don't realize about this deck is your goal isn't to make your board strong, so your opponent has a difficult time attacking over it because you can't. Your goal is to make a board that is it makes your opponent think and make wrong decisions. For example, the best end board in the game for this deck is a 7's Road Magician, a 7's Road Witch, and a Torna. Because on their turn, for example, if they don't get Dragius on the field, they'll definitely end up having to choose 2 of them to get rid of.
That's a big if.
That's a big if, but it has happened to me occasionally. Like they don't get the Dragius or they don't get enough attack force to destroy all 3.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to choose 2, then it becomes a difficult decision.
All right. Okay, let's talk about dragons. We're gonna ignore Hammer Crush Deal because that's not dragons. And let's see. So the Dragonic Resonance, which is not a skill that we talked about yet. So Dragonic Resonance is if you can only use it if all the monsters in your deck are dragons. If you have a face-up Earth attribute effect monster with 1,500 or more attack or 1,300 or more defense, this turn, up to 2 face-up monsters with 2,300 or less attack on your field gain 500 attack, and their level is increased by 4. So this is not correct, DLM. This is not a drop for Luke. This is his level 18 skill. Come on. Okay. So the obvious uses for this skill is if you have Dragonic Slayer or Gravity Press Dragon out, you can then gain 500 attack to any 2 dragons you control, and also make your monsters high enough level to use Dragonic Slayer's effect. This will be good later, but it is not good right now. Back row is terrible right now. Dragonic Slayer should be the best card in this box. I have said that. I said that to start with. I was shocked that we were getting Dragonic Slayer this early, but then they didn't give us any trap cards, so I guess it makes sense. Dragonic Slayer isn't good if there's no cards for it to slay, I guess. Great job, Konami.
For reference, when Sevens released, Rush released in the real life, there were several traps that were really good. Traps were really played, so we were shocked to see only like one semi decent, not really trap.
I was expecting that too. Like, I literally told Ash that if you do not play back row, you're gonna lose. How wrong I was.
Yep. You can use this with Triadrago has 1300 defense, so that's the other, like, it says 1500 attack or 1300 defense, that's because of Triadrago.
Tredrago is like kinda like the Mystic Dealer of this deck.
That is a very, it's not. It's not.
It is not. It is not as good. It is not as consistent. But I've seen people use this as a draw engine.
Yeah, it's all right. Um. But the thing that makes this skill particularly interesting is that you can use it with Twin Edge Dragon, and then Twin Edge Dragon has 1500 attack points and can attack twice, which is actually not bad. When we only have 6,000 life points, if Twin Edge Dragon gets to hit you, that's a lot of damage. So obviously, since you're running so many level 7, Sports Dragon Pitcher and Sports Dragon Slugger are really good, and because you're running Sports Dragon Pitcher and Sports Dragon Slugger, you are of course going to run Dragonic Pressure because Sports Dragon Pitcher and Sports Dragon Slugger make Dragonic Pressure a very good card. Is this deck good? Primarily, the reason why this deck sees play is because you can use Gravity Press Dragon with 2,000 attack points, and then discard a card to make Yami Ruler or Dragius go down to 1,800 and beat over them. And the reason why this is good specifically is because, unlike Thunder the Thunder, Gravity Press Dragon affects defense points as well. So this card beats Yami Ruler, whereas Thunder the Thunder does not, Summon Skull does not. That's really good. I mean, a Gravity Press Dragon is a better card than I was expecting it to be. Primarily just because, like I said, it lets you get through high defense. And Yami Ruler's only gimmick is that it's a wall. So it so every deck has a way to get through Yami Ruler.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I say Yami Ruler felt like the worst deck to me, because every deck feels like it can get through Yami Ruler, and which I don't mind. Like, every deck should have a way to get through Yami Ruler, or else that would be unfun. But like, we don't have those options compared to everybody else.
Yeah, I will say that I was talking about how Psychics didn't have any boss monsters. This deck has 11. It has 11 boss monsters. That's pretty crazy.
I think dragons in general are going to just be filled with boss monsters from now on.
Dragonic Pressure is just really insane. So for those of you that don't know what this card does, you have to have 3 dragons in your hand. You discard all 3 of them, and you can destroy all monsters on the field. And if you destroyed a monster by this effect, you get to special summon a level 4 or lower dragon-type monster from your graveyard to your field in defense position. So most of the time, you will only have 1 card left in your hand when you activate Draconic Pressure, because you had the Draconic Pressure in your hand, you had 3 dragons in your hand, you had 1 other card. But you can set this card. And if you set this card, you pass to your opponent, and then next turn you use it, well, then you could have 2 cards in your hand. And if you revive, say, Phoenix Dragon, and then discard 1 of your cards, you could potentially get back a level 7, and then you could normal summon the other card in your hand, tribute them both to play Dragius, for example, and then attack directly for 2,500. Is that good? Of course, that's very good. It doesn't seem like it's enough right now, which is weird because Dark Hole is like so good, but at the same time, discarding 3 dragons is a really big cost. And I have played through multiple Dragonic Pressures in a single game and still managed to win. It took forever, but it is possible. So I am going to say that this deck is B tier. It is not, in my opinion, the best version of dragons anymore. Um, it is also likely that this deck is going to get changed because, again, we have that weird skill that's basically a mirror of this skill. Um, I don't necessarily think that the other version of the skill is worse, but I don't know how losing the option to get your monsters up to level 10 and 11 is going to impact the cards that we're going to have coming, for example. So, like, if they are going to give us a ton of traps in this next box. They have to make up for the fact that they didn't give us anything. They are going to notice because they're making us go through an entire month with no more cards. So when we get to the end of November, we're gonna see like the best traps possible to put a stop to all this crap. And at that point, having high level monsters will be valuable, and we might not have them anymore if they just rip Dragonic Residence out of the game. But I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. So I'm calling it. This is a B tier deck. It is not going to stay in the meta now that Curse of Dark is in there.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with B tier. I think the issue is Dragonic Pressure. The spell card was it Pressure?
Yeah, Dragonic Pressure.
Okay, Dragonic Pressure is good, but every time it's being used against me, okay, yeah, it sucks. It cleared my board, but then at most you're gonna end up with a Dragias on your field. Then it's 2500 in the face. The late game, yeah, it can end you if you're like at the end stages of the game. But then, if you don't end the game right then and there, your board next turn is just a Dragias. And that is very easy to get over
Mm-hmm.
for most decks.
Yeah,
And
that's
not
kind of the
only,
drawback is that you just don't have enough. Like you can't build a board afterwards. Yeah.
yeah, like if you can get over 2500, which most decks should, you get over that Dragias, and not only you get over, you slap your opponent in the face. So, for example, spellcasters, they can attack the Dragias with the Witch, the 2800 Witch, and then just slap you for over 3k damage with Magician
Mm-hmm.
very easily. So yeah, I think B tier is okay for this.
Gold.
I definitely agree that this version of Dragon is B tier. Well, I don't have much to add that you guys have not already stated.
Well, I'm sorry. I'll let you talk. I'll let you talk first next time.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
No, no. I want you to feel like you're contributing, dude. All right. All right. We'll go to the next one, and I won't say anything. Khrome won't say anything. Gold. It's all you. What do you think about this Curse of the Dark list that I was talking about before?
Like you said earlier, I definitely think it's the better version of the two because it has the options of beatdown. It can get over Yami Ruler, even in the fence. It, Curse of Dragon basically is Summon Skull now, like you said. I just basically feel like it's an overall better version of Dragons.
Okay. All right. So if you had to give it a rating, based on the ratings that I described earlier, do you think this would be S, A, or B?
Be lenient and say it's A tier. I'm not sure about S yet, but I definitely feel like it's around A tier.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Khrome, what do you think?
I think I can agree with A, mostly because okay, so Dragoncaster is an S because he has the power and the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I think Spellcasters is an A because he has a lot of consistency, but it lacks in power on your opponent's turn. I think this deck has a lot of power that it can output very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's lacking a couple more tools to be able to. So for me to be able to say it's going to dominate the meta.
Okay.
It's a high A for certain because, like we said before, it's idiot proof.
Mhm. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you guys. I know that I said it was probably the best deck, and I still think that, but we haven't seen any tournaments yet. It's still new. I'm basing all of my assumptions off of my own personal experience, which most of the experience that I got with the Curse of the Dark deck was today. Um, and I got blown away because it was brand new, and I was shocked to see how good it was. I was in a I was in a situation where I thought I had finally like gotten back after my opponent. My opponent summoned cursive like summoned the dragon, made its attack points 2,800, passed to me it was 2,300, and I did not draw an out. So I kind of built my board up to survive, passed back to him. He managed to get out another dragon, and then he played another Dragonic Knight of Darkness. So we had another 2,800. He beat through my stuff, and then he had two 2,300s at the end of his turn. I'm just like, all right, I don't have much left. So I drew my cards, and I was just like, all right, I got a plan. And I just summoned Yami Ruler, and I put Yami Ruler in defense. I'm like, okay, his top end is Dragius. I know he can't play Dragonic Slayer. So as long as he doesn't have exactly his third copy of Dragon Knight of Darkness, I bought myself a turn. And he had 15 cards left in his deck after he drew. I'm just like, there's no way he drew his all three of his Dragonic Knight of Darknesses in the first 15 cards. And he slammed it down and he beat me to death. So not only is like I said, the real reason why I think this deck is better than the Excel deck is because it has the same power during your turn, but it's much better during your opponent's turn. 2,300 is much harder to get rid of than 1,600. So the Excel deck has Torn of the Windweaver, which is a very good card. I'm not gonna lie, but uh, even though Curse of the Dark has less tricks, it's so much more durable, and that is going to quickly become a valuable trait. So I think this is going to be S the next time that we meet, but for right now, I'll leave it there. All right, let's talk about aggro, which we have not talked about yet, and we can finally get to Hammer Crush Deal. Oh wait, there is a first place for finally we get to one of these first place decks. All the other decks were second place. Okay, okay, this is the deck that I cogged with, so let's talk about it.
Okay.
Um,
Do you want to start?
I'm gonna start. Yeah. So, wait, is this my list? No, not quite. I was running Seven's Road instead of Prima Guitar. Okay. All right. So there are two versions of aggro. There's the Hammer Crush Deal version, which is not the deck I used. I used the Legend Draw, and then there's the Legend Draw version. And the idea of this deck is you have cards like Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, Masakai, the Legendary Swordsman, and Silent Assailant as very good, cards that can push for damage. You want your level 4s to, first of all, not share a type with any of your high level monsters, so you never run into Phantom Mind. But you also want them to have a decent amount of attack points so that when you are able to clear the field with your high level monsters, your low level monsters can get in some good chip damage. So I would run Gazelle, Masaki, Silent Assailant, and then the water aqua monster that has 1,400 attack points, and Magical Ghost, which is 1,300, 1,400, but it's a zombie. And then I ran 2 copies of Yami Ruler, 1 copy of Dragius, 1 copy of Dying Keto, 2 copies of Seven's Road, and Summon Skull. And I think I'm running 3 copies of Witch. Yeah, I'm running 3 copies of Witch as well, just to make Seven's Road easier. The primary benefit of this deck, and the reason why it was so powerful so early, is because it literally just ignores Phantom Bind. So on the first 2 days of the meta, when people were trying to run Phantom Bind to stop all of the dragons and all of the spellcasters, which was working, this deck came out and it was just like, hey, look at all those worthless cards that you have. Oh, you're playing Hammer Crush? Oh, you're playing Phantom Bind? Guess you're down 6 cards because neither of them affect me. Meanwhile, I have 30 monsters and I'm just going to go right to your face. And the benefit of this deck compared to other decks is you always have something to do. you have so many high level monsters. I was running 10 tribute monsters. I was running 3 copies of Witch, which is a level 7. Level 6, and then 7. No, hold on. 3 copies of Witch, 1 copy of Summon Skull. That's 4 level 1 tribute monsters, and then 6 level 7 and 8s. That is so consistent in a 30 card deck. Literally 20 level 4s, and then 10 cards that I contribute level 4s to do something with. And no spells, no traps, nothing. This would make it so that I would very easily break every single board and still put through damage while always having options to just set and pass every turn. It makes use of the fact that you're drawing 5 cards and you just go full aggro. Now, the version that I was using ran 2 copies of Yami Ruler so that I could, I'm sorry. The version that I cog with ran 2 copies of Dragius and 1 copy of Yami Ruler. But I ran Yami Ruler instead of 3 Dragius specifically so that I could beat the mirror, because this deck is very bad at beating Yami Ruler specifically, which is part of the reason why the 7's Road Excel deck started showing up, because a lot of people were losing this mirror because they were bad, and because I was preying on them, because I was the one beating all of them, and they decided to switch to Excel 7's Road and beat the Yami Ruler that way, which is fair, admittedly. Okay, so having discussed all of that, this deck is not as good as it was before. It's still really strong, but it's no longer in an environment that is designed to counter. The reason this deck was so good so early is because, like I said, it put you in a position where your opponent's trap cards and spell cards were meaningless. So you simply won the game because your opponent ran out of cards. That is no longer the case because people have just stopped playing Hammer Crush, and they've just stopped playing Phantom Mind. They realized that they were in a situation where they could either adapt or lose. And so now we have decks like the Dragonic Residence and the 7's Road Excel and the 7's Dragon Casters that just don't run Hammer Crush. They don't run Phantom Bind. And in exchange, they run skills, and those skills are typically better than just drawing Summon Skull. So, yes, this deck has the huge benefit of not having to worry about restrictions, but the raw power of these skills giving you almost 1,000 attack points every single turn does kind of offset that. I don't think this is a B tier deck. I think it's probably the lowest A that I could give it, but I think this deck will get worse. I think it's going to end up in the B tier.
I don't know, because like you said, while it does have the consistency, it's lacking the power that the other decks in A tier have. So I don't know. I feel like it deserves B tier at best.
I'm torn. I think it's either bottom of A or top of B. And I'm going to lean towards the very top of B.
Mhm.
It is the best B tier deck right now. I was one of the ones crying out against this deck when it was crushing my spellcaster dreams at the start. But then I discovered very quickly that I can just. Here's the thing. That's it. The other benefit of Recovery Force. You use it at the very end of your turn, right before you attack,
Mhm.
and you make sure that at most Phantom Bind is going to lower their damage a little bit.
Mhm. All right, so let's get into Psychics.
The painful one.
All right, we've already said everything that we can about Psychics, really. I'm going to go with D.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah.
It's lacking the options, like not necessarily options, but well, I guess I could say options because it's not having as much psychic monsters as it needs.
Yeah, they either need to give us more Psychic monsters, or they need to, and I can't believe I'm saying this, they need to buff the skill. That skill is so good.
They
But
need to buff the skill to at least 2500.
they need
Oh
to
yeah,
buff
I definitely agree.
they need to buff the skill to make it so that you can play like non-psychic monsters. They need to just say, okay, you can play like the same thing as everything else. If it has lower than 1400 attack points, you can play it, and that will make the deck significantly better. Because right now you basically only have like 20 cards that you can play now. Hold on. All right.
One day. Oh,
Let's
I'm
see.
sorry. I was about to.
I apologize. I had to let my mother know that I am not available to discuss anything right now. Okay. Let's see.
I will say one thing I want to add just to this. It's not specifically about psychics.
Mhm.
It makes me a little bit sad that the best home for Prima right now is the aggro variant, because Prima and Dragius are a power couple.
They are. That's true. I do think that psychics will probably get better once we just have more psychics. Sorry, Gold. Go ahead.
No, I was just about to talk about. I was thinking about like bot. How are they gonna do bot? Like I know they're gonna alternate it, but I wonder are they gonna bring up the power level of bosses so they don't feel like they're gonna give us stale metas.
They would have to like release some pretty good bosses to compete with Dragius, and I don't know that there are any other ones right now. Unless they like skip ahead, but they're not gonna do that. I don't think. Like if they gave us something like the fusion monsters for Yami Ruler, then sure, Yami Ruler could be tiered, but they're not gonna give us fusion for a very long time, so it's not gonna happen. Okay. All right. So now we have the Dark Arts of Clarity deck. Gold. Where do you think you want to put this?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna put it on E, or at least like near D, E or D. But I'm leaning closer to E because I feel like you don't got the options like suckers do right now.
Okay. Chrome. What do you think?
I think E's a little bit too mean to the deck. I mean, it's not powerful. Definitely not powerful. Um, but I'm leaning just because it can be, and it has created an environment where a lot of decks are trying to specifically work to avoid stuff like Yami Ruler. I think either D with Psychics or no, I think it's D or even C. I would argue for a C even.
I was gonna put it in C actually. So yeah, I think this is probably the quintessential C deck. It's got some options. It's not good, but it's not bad either. I mean, it did get top one. I mean, it did get first place in a tournament. It can't be that bad. The deck is very reliant on you drawing a level 8 every turn. Um, and I think that kind of really weakens it because there's not that many of them. It's another example of along with Prima Gitarna of like the skill is too restrictive. At least you can play cards that have less than 1400 attack, but I don't see why they've cut him off from Fairies and Winged Beasts when he plays Fairies and Winged Beasts. Especially when we get cards like uh, Karchazark the Unequaled, it's going to be very weird to not be able to play those cards in this deck. So they either need to give us another Yami Ruler skill that allows for Warriors, Winged Beasts, and Fairies, or they need to change this skill to allow those cards because there are a lot of Gavin cards that we are going to get that cannot be played with this skill, and that's a problem because this is a role player skill. It should go to we should be able to play all of Gavin's cards in this deck. So we'll see. I'm hoping that the fact that they restricted this skill so much is an indication that they are going to give him another skill that's kind of supposed to be his main skill later when they give him other cards. But for right now, we can just go ahead and let it go.
All right.
Um. Okay, so let's skip beat down for a second and get to the other deck that I was going to say was the worst, which is the Volt Condor deck.
Oh boy.
All right,
Oh.
so I had high hope for this deck. I really did. I thought this deck was going to be really good because the skill is insane, but the cards are not. Um, so Lightning Bolt Condor, the skill is Lightning Shift. You can only use it if the only monsters in your deck with 14 or more attack are spellcasters or weak beasts. During the turn, you summon a level 7 or higher monster. One face-up monster on your opponent's field becomes light until the end of the turn, and then if you have a face-up Lightning Bolt Condor on your field, you can add one level 4 or lower light attribute wing beast type monster from your graveyard to your hand. But we only have 2. We only have Trick Pigeon and Luminous Parrot. And this list that hit second place didn't even run any Trick Pigeons. Because why would you? You don't have any spells to discard. So, that we have so few spell cards right now that they didn't even print Blasting Bird. Because Blasting Bird requires you to reveal 2 spell or trap cards from your hand. They didn't even print it because they knew that no one would run it because we don't have enough spells and traps to use it with. So
It is just
I
very
feel-
unfortunate.
yeah,
I feel like a lot of this is they gave us like more spells and traps.
it is a situation where you want it to be like the trailer. They showed us a trailer for this deck where he summoned Luminous Parrot. He used Luminous Parrot's effect. Then he tributed summon Lightning Bolt Condor, and he used the skill to change the opponent's monster to light. Then he activated. Then he got Luminous Parrot back. Then he had a second Volt Condor in his hand, discarded that, and all of his opponent's monsters lost 2,100 attack points. That was really cool. But that's so rare. Because Volt Condor is the only light monster. Like Seven's Road isn't light. Torn of the Windweaver isn't light. Darkness Crested Hawk isn't light. Like, it's you basically have to discard Luminous Parrot that you got back, and then you're not getting any value out of the skill. So we need more light monsters, and it's nice that they just printed a whole ton of cards for Volt Condor. Hopefully we get them. If we can get like all the cards they just dropped 2 days ago in the next box, then great. This skill's going to be the best deck in the game. But for right now, we don't have any cards to play with it.
I think the best use I've seen for Volt Condor specifically isn't even in his own deck.
Yeah.
Is if you mix Volt Condor with some of the other engines. For example, if your opponent has a Seven's Road Magician on the field, and you have a Volt Condor, you discard your own Seven's Road Magician from your hand, and now theirs is trash. But then again, you're dropping a whole boss monster to keep arguably a worse one on the field. It just doesn't feel as good. Like you said, the skill is insane, but it's not enough to carry Volt Condor.
Yep. And the sad part is, like, there are a bunch of other light monsters in the game. So this skill should be able to counter a lot. Like, Prima Guitarna is light. Multi-Strike Dragon Dragus is light. And Dion Kito the Cure Master is light. So this skill and this deck was perfect for countering basically the entire meta. But the funny thing is, because they restricted it, we can't actually do it. If they didn't have the restriction on playing these cards, you would run Dragius, you would run Dion Kito, and you would run Prima Guitarna. And the deck would be a lot better because you'd have more light monsters to discard for the cost. But since you can't run any of these cards, you don't actually have enough light monsters to even use the skill the way it's supposed to be used. And that's so frustrating. So they can change this. If they say that you can, here's what they need to do. Here's what they need to do. Listen to me, Konami, for 2 minutes, because I am a genius, okay? How you fix this is you take the restriction on the deck building off, and instead you say that whenever you activate this skill, you can only attack with Winged Beasts for the rest of the turn. You're worried about Dragius being used with this? Okay. Dragius will be the discard fodder. You're worried about Prima Guitarna being used with this? Okay. Prima Guitarna will be the discard fodder. But we need the discard fodder in the deck. It has to be in my hand for me to use the skill. So let me build the deck with all the light monsters of the game, and then I will only attack with Volt Condor and Darkness Crested Hawk. Okay? That's how you fix the skill. It'll be S tier. And it won't even be unfair. It'll just be playable. But no, they're not going to do that. All right.
Yeah.
F. I'm calling F. Calling F. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
Give me a skill and then don't give me any cards to discard.
It is a very sad situation for O'Connor. I was so happy for it. It had the chance to be something so much greater.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't. Just fell short.
Yeah, and it's funny because Magi won second place in our tournament, and his skill was turned off. Like because he put Dragius in the deck, so he put one copy of Dragius in the deck that turned the entire skill off, and he still managed to beat another Volt Condor deck that had the skill live because he played Dragius. So his one copy of Dragius was better than having the skill.
Oh my god.
That is so depressing.
That is depressing. Like I said, they could, with just a tweak of the skill. I think maybe the skill was so restrictive because they were giving us away 2 structures for free, and they didn't want it to be that easy. That is my main point of concern, maybe. I don't know. Konami, fix your shit.
Gold, what do you think?
What do I think about what?
I said
Placement.
that I was going to put it in F.
Oh, that's fair. Like, I definitely agree with y'all. Like, it feels like a lot of wasted potential. And like, as I said earlier, I feel like a lot of this could be rectified if they gave us more options, like more spells, more traps.
This second box had better be good.
Dark Revelation, please.
Let's pray. It's going to be hopefully it's 140 cards. Hopefully they're just switching to just 140 cards every month because that's brilliant. As opposed to doing 180 and then 100 every alternating month. Just give us 140 every month, and then like it's speed 2 months, or speed 1 month, and rush the next month. That makes sense. And then you have like a month. You have 2 months basically to save up the 21,000 gems you need to go through whichever box you're going into. And if you want to play both speed and rush, you just make 2 accounts. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, and then we have the last deck, which is the Beetle deck, and
I mean, second, so we had other 2 we still haven't talked about fully.
we did talk about them. I said no one knows how to play the Explosion deck yet, and the Noodle deck has been intentionally not given any of the cards it needs. So they're not real decks.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the Beetle deck, Chrome said this is the worst deck in the game because you are running 15 level 1 vanillas, which is pretty accurate. I also think this is basically just a worse version of the Monster Mash deck that I already think is kind of on the way out. I'd say E.
I want to agree with E just because Light Volconder feels like a personal attack. Beetlejuice is at least funny.
You said you won't agree with it, or you will?
No, I will agree with it.
Okay. What about you, Gold? Do you think this Beetle deck? Well, I guess you haven't played against this deck, have you?
I have not played against this deck, but I do agree with Cone. Like either E or like very low D.
All right. Well, then we have our tier list. Okay, so in a class all on its own, we have Dragon Casters, which is strong primarily because of its recycling engine and the fact that Seven's Road Witch was released so ridiculously early. Then in A tier, we have the 2 skills that give way too much attack points, which is Seven's Road Excel and Curse of Dark. And the reason that both these skills are good is because they allow you to beat basically any boss monster with a level 6, which is ridiculous. Coming up in beer, we have Dragonic Resonance, which is primarily good because it can make good use of Dragonic Pressure. So it has Dark Hole, and that's really good. And then the aggro list because never runs out of options. Then in C, we have the Kime Ruler, the Dark Raider deck. You can attack directly a few times. You also get free block attacks when block attack is not even in the game yet. Is that good? That is very good, but it is not good enough. Coming up in D, we have Psychics. The primary reason that Psychics are not C is because you kill yourself while you're playing it. And
in real life.
your life point total dropping repeatedly is something that is very difficult to manage. The skill does allow you to dance with it, which is very good if you're very good at the game like me. But most people are not very good at the game. So being able to use your life point total and dropping between like 1200 and 200 and then going back up to 1200 and surviving with that is really difficult to do. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. And so this deck is a deck that could see play at the very high level, but the ladder is not reached the very high level yet. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is not,
And,
and we need more cards. And
I
also
think
the fact that they exclude Esperade from the skill is a war crime. Fuck you, Konami.
and I think like adding to this, like I mentioned before that spellcasters is like also a very big brain deck for some players. I think that psychics and spellcasters are the two biggest brain decks of this list. The difference is I think spellcasters have a little bit of a higher reward for less brain power
Yeah, I was about to say
compared to psychics.
like yes, spellcasters do have some decisions to make, but they aren't like literally paying 2,000 life points in a single turn. Like
No, no,
psychics,
no, yeah.
psychics require a lot, and they were definitely hurt by the fact that we don't have 8,000 life points.
Yeah. Like I said, it's low reward, a lot of risk.
The Beetle deck is basically just the aggro deck, but designed to win trades, and that's not good enough. And then Volt Condor is a deck that would be insane if we had any light monsters, but we don't. All right, and that is the tier list, guys. Thank you very much for working with me. This was longer than I wanted it to be, but that's because we had 3 people. So let's all get ready for Mimi because she's coming in 3 hours.
I'll be there.
All right.
I guess let's start grinding.
Thank you very much for coming. This is Serafi. I was thrilled to have you all with me.